Sometimes the world tests you in ways you never expect. Ethan Carter whispered to himself as he adjusted the strap on Ranger's harness. The crisp morning air over Maplewood Avenue carrying the faint scent of pine and freshly fallen snow. Crunching under the boots of the few early risers who paused to glance at the broad-shouldered veteran with the square-jawed face, the silver-streaked dark brown hair catching the pale sunlight. His river-gray eyes hidden behind dark lenses that reflected the frost-specked streetscape, while Ranger, a 6-year-old German shepherd with a sleek silver-gray and cream coat and amber eyes that seemed to hold the knowledge of 1,000 instincts, stood close, ears flicking at every distant sound, nose twitching as he mapped the subtle vibrations of the world. Ethan feeling the quiet pulse of life through his fingertips on the leather of the worn leash, the hum of the city distant, yet ever-present, each step measured and deliberate, the wind whispering through the bare branches of the maples lining the avenue, carrying the faint metallic tang of the frost-laden air, Ethan inhaling slowly and letting the stillness settle like a heavy blanket over his shoulders, every sense alive and alert even as the city moved around them with the muted rhythm of morning routines, the street lamps still casting long shadows in the corners where the sun had yet to reach. The scent of damp asphalt mingling with the faint aroma of bakery smoke drifting from a corner shop, a subtle reminder that life carried on in its own quiet way. Ethan's gloved hand brushing over the smooth leather of Ranger's back as the dog shifted slightly, the sound of nails clicking softly against the pavement, a reassuring presence that grounded Ethan in the moment, the hum of a passing delivery truck fading into the distance, a flurry of snowflakes catching in the morning light and drifting lazily to the ground. Ethan's lips pressing into a thin line as he focused on the small noises the city offered, the soft whistle of wind through the alleyway, the faint scuff of shoes on concrete, each a map of movement that only he could interpret. Ranger's gaze locked forward, tail low but steady, sensing a presence or pattern beyond Ethan's immediate perception, and in that precise quiet, a vibration beneath their feet, subtle yet deliberate, a rhythm in the pulse of the street that seemed to signal the unfolding of something larger. Ethan inhaled deeply, letting the cold air fill his lungs, feeling the faint shiver of anticipation that ran down his spine, the dog's ears twitching in concert with the distant, almost imperceptible hum of engines approaching, the city's heartbeat aligning with theirs as they moved forward with careful steps, every movement a balance of trust and instinct, the world around them shifting imperceptibly, and in that suspended moment, Ethan knew that the ordinary morning had already begun to bend toward the extraordinary, the presence of Ranger beside him a constant reminder that they were never truly alone, and that even in the quietest moments, the air itself seemed to hum with the potential for change, as though fate had already begun to weave the threads that would carry them through the coming trials and revelations. The soft crunch of snow under Ethan Carter's boots echoed faintly along the quiet avenue as he and Ranger moved with deliberate precision, the winter morning light casting long, pale shadows across the frost-dusted pavement, each breath visible in the crisp air, carrying with it the subtle sense of pine, damp earth, and the faint aroma of fresh-baked bread drifting from a nearby cafe. Ethan's gloved hand resting lightly on Ranger's sleek back, feeling the rhythm of the dog's muscles beneath. The fur, every movement attuned to the world around them, the distant hum of engines barely audible through the stillness, yet somehow carrying a pulse that seemed to synchronize with the heartbeat in Ethan's chest, the amber eyes of Ranger scanning, ears pricked and alert, catching subtle shifts in the environment, a leaf twisting down from the maple above, a faint vibration in the concrete beneath their feet, the dog's nose twitching, drawing in information invisible to any human. Ethan, inhaling slowly, grounding himself, letting the cold fill his lungs and sharpen his awareness, his other hand brushing against the strap of his worn leather bag, feeling the weight and texture, the small comfort of familiarity amid uncertainty, the buildings lining the street standing tall and quiet, their windows reflecting the winter light, casting thin prisms of gold and silver that shimmered across the icy surfaces. A gentle breeze stirring, whispering against his face and the fur of Ranger, carrying the distant chime of the cafe bell as the door opened to release warmth and sound into the morning. Ethan listening intently, piecing together the symphony of life around him. The soft patter of falling snowflakes against metal and glass. The subtle creak of wooden signs swaying in the wind. Ranger shifting slightly at his side. Tail low but steady. A tactile reminder of companionship and vigilance. Together they navigated the narrow alleyways. The textures underfoot changing from ice to packed snow, to scattered gravel, each step measured and mindful, Ethan attuned to. The micro-movements around him, feeling the flow of the city's quiet rhythm, sensing subtle cues of change, of something stirring beyond sight. The light deepening as the sun climbed higher, casting soft warmth on the scene, illuminating the fine frost patterns on windows and the edges of the street. Ranger pausing, tilting his head, a soft growl rolling from his chest, low and deliberate, guiding Ethan's attention to the shift in vibration beneath the ground, the faint hum of machinery or engines far off. Ethan recognizing patterns from years of disciplined observation. The street transformed into a landscape of potential and anticipation, every detail heightened, from the glint of ice along the gutter to the sway of bare branches overhead. Ethan's pulse steady, mind sharp, ready to interpret the subtle signals. Ranger's presence a constant anchor, both companion and guide, leading him along the rhythm of the morning, toward the unseen moment that was quietly approaching. A change that would ripple through the day in ways both profound and unexpected. Their movement a seamless dance of awareness, trust, and the quiet certainty that together they could meet whatever lay ahead with calm and focus. Each breath and step an affirmation of resilience. Each flick of Ranger's ears and tail a note in the silent language of intuition and connection. The distant rumble of wheels on pavement grew steadily, weaving a low vibration through the soles of Ethan Carter's boots as he and Ranger moved with measured calm through the frost-lined avenue. Sunlight reflecting off the icy edges of the street in fractured shards of silver and gold. The winter air crisp against Ethan's cheeks, and carrying the soft scent of cedar from nearby planters dusted with fresh snow. Every inhale sharpening his awareness. Each exhale a quiet release of tension. Ranger, at his side shifting subtly, tail low and ears attentive, the fine muscles of his shoulders and back moving in perfect rhythm with the veteran's steps, eyes amber and bright, tracking distant shadows and sounds, sniffing the faint trace of exhaust, and the earthy tang of frozen soil beneath cracks in the sidewalk. Ethan feeling each vibration through the leash, as if reading a language written in rhythm and pulse. His senses alive to the gentle hum of the city awakening, the slight sway of street lamps in the breeze, the faint murmur of distant conversations, and the creak of signs above closed shop doors. The world layered in soft sensory textures that spoke to him in whispers only he could interpret. Ranger nudging his legs softly to draw attention to a subtle change in the pattern of air currents, a hint of warmth from the sun on a distant building that seemed out of place, a glint of polished metal reflecting light off the road. Ethan pausing for a moment, letting the layers of sound, scent, and movement coalesce into understanding. The dog shifting closer, pressing shoulder to hand, a reassurance, and a signal, guiding Ethan along the rhythm of the street. The promise of discovery building with each step, the frost crunching softly underfoot, the air carrying faint echoes of laughter, and the distant bell of the cafe now opening its doors, the city quietly alive and observant. Ethan drawing upon memory and discipline, recalling the subtle cues learned through years of service and attuned instinct, each sound measured and catalogued, the faintest hum of engines now blending with the pulse of the street. Ranger lifting his head, ears flicking toward a rising vibration, a prelude to movement that would reshape the day. Ethan responding with calm precision, a hand resting on the dog's back to steady and interpret, the world around them unfolding like a living map. Every detail carrying meaning, from the delicate frost on window ledges to the way snow clung to the branches of maples overhead. Each step forward an act of trust and synergy. The anticipation electric, yet serene, a quiet current of energy that seemed to gather in the air, focusing their attention, sharpening perception, a moment suspended between ordinary and extraordinary. Ethan and Ranger moving through it as one, attuned to the unseen, prepared for the subtle miracle waiting just ahead, a shift in the cadence of the morning that promised revelation, guidance, and the reaffirmation of resilience, all without a single word. The rhythm of the world echoing through their senses, carrying them toward what lay just beyond the edge of awareness, a silent, unfolding certainty that the next step would reveal the extraordinary hidden in plain sight. The chill in the morning air wrapped around Ethan Carter like a familiar cloak as he moved down the frost-lined avenue, each step measured, deliberate, and guided by the subtle feedback of the ground beneath him. The sound of Ranger's paws tapping in perfect rhythm beside him, a low hum of awareness emanating from the dog that seemed to carry the intelligence of countless instincts. The sunlight catching the silver streaks in Ethan's dark brown hair and glinting off the icy edges of the street, casting fractured patterns of light across the pavement, a soft breeze stirring the bare branches above, carrying the faint aroma of pine and the distant warmth of a bakery, releasing the scent of fresh bread and roasted coffee, each element layering itself into a sensory map that Ethan interpreted with careful precision, his gloved hands adjusting the leash and resting lightly on the dog's back, feeling the subtle tension and movement that communicated more than words ever could. The city, waking around them with a quiet rhythm, the distant murmur of early risers and the soft echo of footsteps across the sidewalks, a bell chiming from the corner cafe marking the passage of minutes in a cadence that seemed almost synchronized with the heartbeat of the pair, Ranger pausing mid-step to lift his head, ears flicking at a faint vibration in the air, his amber eyes fixed and alert, and Ethan responding instinctively, feeling the shift in energy through the taut leash and the subtle hum. Beneath his boots, guiding his awareness to the signs the dog had detected, the cold sunlight spilling across the buildings, illuminating frost patterns and glinting off street signs, the wind carrying whispers of movement, soft shuffles, and the distant rev of engines, each sound layered into a tapestry that Ethan absorbed completely, sensing both the ordinary and the extraordinary interwoven in the morning, every texture, scent, and vibration a note in the living symphony of the street. Ranger nudging gently, pressing against Ethan's leg as though confirming the unseen, Ethan drawing a deep breath and letting the cold fill his lungs, grounding himself in the moment, his senses stretched across the street, across the buildings, across the hidden patterns of life and motion, and in that careful attunement, the morning held its breath, poised between the familiar and the unseen, every sound and movement carrying the potential for revelation, a quiet anticipation building as they approached the center of the avenue, Ranger's body tensed and responsive, ears rotating toward the faintest disturbances, Ethan's hand firm yet gentle on the leash, their connection absolute, the rhythm of their steps and breaths, merging with the pulse of the city, aware of every nuance and ready to interpret the subtle signals that might shift the ordinary into the extraordinary, the frost sparkling in the sunlight like scattered diamonds, the branches above swaying lightly in the wind, each detail imprinted on Ethan's mind as he moved in perfect synchrony with Ranger, attuned to the hidden currents of the day, poised on the edge of a moment that promised clarity, revelation, and the quiet, profound magic of observation and trust, the street itself becoming a canvas of awareness and anticipation under the steady guidance of the veteran and his extraordinary companion. The morning continued to unfold with a quiet intensity as Ethan Carter and Ranger navigated further down the avenue, the sunlight now higher in the sky, warming the frost-laden street and reflecting in subtle glints off the icy edges of parked vehicles and the polished surfaces of windows, each reflection a small flash of light that danced across the pavement and hinted at hidden movement. The crisp air carrying faint scents of wood smoke and pine from nearby planters dusted with snow, blending with the metallic tang of the city itself, while Ethan's gloved hands remained in constant contact with the leash, feeling the nuanced shifts in Ranger's posture, the low hum of the dog's energy radiating through the leather, signaling changes in the environment that were imperceptible to others, a distant rumble of engines beginning to rise and fall with a rhythm that seemed to synchronize with Ethan's pulse, every footstep calculated, absorbing the subtle vibrations through his boots, the wind carrying the soft murmur of conversations and distant footsteps across the icy streetscape, the shadows lengthening as the sun angled through the buildings, painting long, fractured shapes across the pavement. Ranger pausing, head tilting, ears alert, sensing a faint disturbance in the air and nudging Ethan gently to shift direction, the veteran responding instinctively, moving with deliberate caution, each breath drawn slowly to steady the body and mind, the sound of snowflakes settling on metal and concrete punctuating the quiet cadence of the morning, every small detail, the creak of a distant sign, the sway of bare branches overhead, the shimmer of frost on windows, cataloged in Ethan's mind as pieces of a larger pattern, guiding him toward the subtle but significant shifts that promised to reshape the day. Ranger moving in perfect synchronicity, muscles taut yet controlled, every movement deliberate and meaningful, the amber eyes scanning the surroundings, noting changes in the light, sound, and scent with precision, Ethan interpreting each signal, building a mental map of the street as it transformed beneath them, a tapestry of ordinary life interwoven with hints of the extraordinary, a quiet anticipation building as they approached the midpoint of the avenue. The patterns of activity and stillness aligning in a rhythm that seemed almost orchestrated. Every detail contributing to the sense of imminent revelation. The frost sparkling on the edges of pavement, catching sunlight like tiny scattered diamonds. The faint echoes of distant machinery adding a subtle vibration to the otherwise still environment. Ranger shifting slightly, pressing against Ethan's side. A tactile reminder of connection and guidance. And Ethan, feeling the weight of each moment, each sensation heightened by the calm focus of both his and Ranger's presence, knew that the city itself seemed to hold its breath, the world quieting around them, every element, sound, and movement forming a prelude to the change that was about to emerge, the anticipation almost tangible in the crisp morning air, guiding them forward, together, attuned to the hidden currents of the day. Poised for the moment when the extraordinary would intersect with the ordinary, revealing the quiet, profound magic that lived in the careful attention, trust, and unspoken partnership between veteran and dog. The air shifted subtly as Ethan Carter and Ranger reached the midpoint of the avenue, a slight change in the rhythm of distant traffic blending with the soft whisper of wind through the bare maple branches, each snowflake glinting in the morning light like tiny frozen sparks. Ethan inhaling deeply to fill his lungs with the crisp, clean air, feeling it sharpen his senses and focus his attention. Every subtle vibration beneath his boots translating into a map of the street, the faint echo of footsteps, the soft hum of a delivery truck turning a corner, and the distant call of a bird overhead layering into a complex symphony that only he and Ranger could interpret. Ranger moving with precise coordination at his side. The muscles along his shoulders and back tense yet fluid, ears rotating to catch the faintest shift in sound or movement, amber eyes tracking every shadow, every glint of sunlight bouncing off icy surfaces, nudging Ethan gently when something drew his attention, a tactile prompt that guided the veteran without the need for words. Ethan responding instinctively, adjusting his pace, tilting his head to sense the subtle changes in the environment. Each breath measured and deliberate, the cold air filling his chest and leaving a tingling warmth along his fingertips, the buildings lining the avenue casting long, fractured shadows across the pavement, reflecting the frost in a mosaic of light and color that changed with every step, the faint scent of pine and wood smoke mingling with the crisp winter air, forming a sensory map that painted the ordinary street as a landscape of possibility and anticipation. Every detail captured in Ethan's mind, the soft creak of wooden signs swaying in the breeze, the shimmer of frost on window ledges, the subtle vibration of the distant engines rising and falling, each element contributing to a tapestry of heightened awareness and silent understanding. Ranger pausing to sniff the air, tilting his head as though confirming something. Unseen, pressing briefly against Ethan's leg. A signal that drew the veteran's attention to a shift in the energy of the street, the snow crunching lightly beneath their feet, the distant murmur of life in the city muted yet perceptible, a rhythm that aligned with the heartbeat of both man and dog. Ethan adjusting his grip on the leash, his senses alert and attuned, the anticipation of what lay ahead building steadily. A quiet tension that was both electric and serene, the sunlight now glinting off the edges of frozen puddles and glistening rooftops, casting small diamonds across the street. Ranger's tail low but steady, every movement communicating reassurance and guidance. Ethan feeling the subtle messages in the dog's posture, interpreting each with practiced precision. The city itself seeming to pause, holding its breath in the stillness of the morning, every detail, every sound, every shimmer of light forming a prelude to the moment that was quietly approaching. A moment that would reveal the extraordinary hidden within the ordinary. A subtle miracle unfolding as they moved forward together, completely attuned to one another, navigating the street with unwavering focus, trust, and a shared understanding that whatever was about to happen would arrive not in loud fanfare, but in the quiet, profound way that only patience, perception, and the bond between veteran and dog could make possible. The subtle hum of movement began to rise through the avenue as Ethan Carter and Ranger continued their careful progression, the frost glinting on the sidewalk edges like scattered crystals catching the morning light, each breath drawn crisp and full, carrying with it the cold clarity that sharpened perception and grounded the senses. Ranger shifting beside him, muscles coiled and responsive, ears pricked to catch the slightest change in sound or vibration, his amber eyes flicking from shadow to reflection, scanning the subtle shifts of light on buildings and vehicles, the distant low rumble of engines vibrating faintly through the soles of Ethan's boots, each step a careful calculation as he read the rhythm of the city, the muffled calls of pedestrians and the soft scrape of tires against ice layering into a complex map of the morning that only he and Ranger could interpret, Ethan's gloved hands resting lightly on the leash, sensing the tension and release of muscle beneath, communicating through touch and trust as Ranger guided him toward an unseen signal, the wind stirring loose flakes of snow from branches above, carrying the faint aroma of pine and the warm bread scent from the bakery at the corner, each inhalation adding layers to the awareness that informed every movement. The buildings casting long, fractured shadows across the avenue, light glinting off glass panes and metallic surfaces in shifting patterns. Ranger pausing and nudging Ethan with a firm press of his shoulder, prompting the veteran to adjust his pace and orientation, subtle sounds of distant machinery harmonizing with the soft patter of snow on asphalt and the occasional murmur of a passerby, forming a rhythm that seemed almost orchestrated. Ethan feeling the pulse of the environment through his feet and fingertips, interpreting the delicate balance of motion and stillness. The anticipation of the approaching moment building in an almost tangible way, Ranger's tail flicking slightly, ears rotating to maintain full awareness, a constant communication between dog and man that transcended words. Ethan inhaling the cold, filling his chest and settling his mind, each step deliberate, measured, and attuned to the smallest cues, the frost sparkling on curbs and window ledges like fragments of light embedded in the street, shadows stretching and contracting as the sun climbed higher, casting dynamic patterns across the avenue, every detail registering in Ethan's memory as part of a living map of sensation, the subtle vibrations of distant activity rippling through the environment. Ranger alert, moving in sync with Ethan, a silent partner reading the cues of the morning and guiding him through the delicate interplay of light, sound, and movement, together forming an almost imperceptible choreography of awareness and anticipation, the city breathing around them, each element in quiet motion, leading them toward the next unfolding layer of the day, a moment of clarity, revelation, and quiet wonder waiting just beyond the next turn. The extraordinary threading seamlessly through the ordinary, sensed fully only by those attuned to the rhythms of both the visible and invisible world. Ethan and Ranger moving with perfect synchronicity, a partnership defined by trust, perception, and the subtle magic of attention. The air around Ethan Carter and Ranger seemed to pulse with anticipation as they advanced toward the heart of the avenue, sunlight glinting on frost-crusted curbs and the edges of parked cars, casting fractured patterns that shifted with every step, each breath of cold air filling Ethan's lungs with a crisp clarity that sharpened his senses. Ranger moving in perfect unison beside him, muscles taut yet fluid, tail low and steady, ears constantly rotating to catch the faintest changes in the environment, amber eyes alert to shadow and movement, sniffing the subtle blend of pine, wood smoke, and the metallic tang of ice. Ethan absorbing every detail, the soft crunch of snow underfoot translating into vibrations that map the street and surrounding activity, the distant hum of engines growing ever so slightly louder, blending with the faint echo of footsteps and muffled voices. The buildings lining the avenue reflecting the sunlight in shifting patterns of silver and gold, the soft sway of street signs above and the delicate creak of branches forming a subtle symphony. Ranger pausing briefly to tilt his head and nudge Ethan with a controlled press of his shoulder, signaling attention toward a small, almost imperceptible change in the rhythm of the street. Ethan responding instinctively, adjusting his position and focus, each step deliberate and measured, senses stretched across sightless but highly attuned perception, noticing the shimmer of frost on windowsills, the delicate glint of ice along the gutters, the interplay of light and shadow creating a dynamic map of patterns that guided their movement, the air carrying a quiet energy, as if the city itself held its breath, Ranger's body vibrating with alertness, nudging and shifting in response to every minor disturbance, each sound and scent layering into a complex narrative of the morning. Ethan interpreting the cues with practiced precision, every subtle vibration, every flicker of light, every faint scent contributing to an unfolding awareness of what was approaching, the rhythm of the street, the shifting sunlight, the faint murmurs of distant voices, all coalescing into a sense of imminent revelation. A quiet suspense that was both electric and serene, the frost sparkling like tiny diamonds in the sun, Ranger's amber eyes scanning, signaling the invisible patterns and movements to Ethan, a silent communication carried through touch, breath, and instinct. Ethan feeling the weight and flow of the moment, grounding himself in the clarity of awareness, knowing that every detail mattered, every sound and vibration held significance. The city landscape stretched before them as a canvas of anticipation, each step forward an act of trust and synergy, a prelude to the extraordinary, the subtle miracle that hovered just beyond perception, waiting to emerge. The partnership between veteran and dog seamless and unspoken, guiding them through the intricate choreography of observation, intuition, and timing. The ordinary street transformed into a tapestry of possibility, awareness, and quiet wonder, every element aligned to lead them toward the moment that would reveal the hidden, extraordinary currents threading through the fabric of the morning, a testament to patience, perception, and the profound connection between man, dog, and the world they moved through together. The morning light had shifted to a warmer tone, spilling across the avenue and casting long golden reflections off the frost and ice. Ethan Carter moving steadily with Ranger at his side, each footfall deliberate and measured, the crunch of snow beneath his boots resonating in harmony with the subtle hum of the city awakening. The distant echoes of tires and voices blending into a tapestry of sound that only he and Ranger could interpret, the veteran's gloved hands steady on the leash, feeling the gentle pulse of the dog's movements and the faint vibrations of the ground beneath them, Ranger's amber eyes flicking to every shadow, every reflective surface, capturing details invisible to others, nudging Ethan when subtle changes in the rhythm of the street suggested a shift. Ethan attuned to the microcosm of the environment, sensing the sway of branches, the shimmer of frost along window ledges, the faint metallic tang of ice, the soft release of warmth from sunlit walls, every detail layering into a map of anticipation and awareness, the air crisp and clean, carrying the faint scent of pine and wood smoke. Ethan inhaling deeply, the sensation grounding him and sharpening his focus. Ranger shifting slightly, pressing against his side as a tactile reminder of the bond that guided their movement. The city around them unfolding in quiet patterns of light, shadow, and sound, every element significant, every subtle change a cue for their progress, the distant murmur of engines growing steadily, blending with the soft patter of snowflakes settling on the pavement, the gentle creak of street signs, and the faint ripple of activity from windows above adding texture to the layered symphony of the morning. Ethan and Ranger moving in seamless synchrony, the dog alert and responsive, muscles coiled yet fluid, tail low but steady, communicating with subtle nudges and shifts in posture. Ethan reading every signal with practiced precision, translating it into action and navigation. The frost sparkling like scattered diamonds across the street, glinting off metal and glass, sunlight catching each fragment in a fleeting display of brilliance. The rhythm of the environment a silent guide, directing their steps toward an unseen convergence of ordinary and extraordinary. Every breath of cold air a reminder of the clarity that came with focus, the anticipation in the atmosphere tangible, the quiet energy of the street aligned with their senses, a subtle prelude to the revelation. Poised just ahead, Ranger lifting his head, ears pricked and alert, nudging Ethan forward, the tactile communication between them seamless and instinctive. Ethan feeling the flow and weight of each moment, the careful choreography of attention and perception transforming the ordinary avenue into a landscape of discovery and wonder, the city holding its breath as they move through the layers of light, sound, and movement. Every element contributing to the unfolding of something profound, a quiet, hidden magic that could be sensed but not yet seen, and Ethan, trusting the rhythm, the cues, and the unwavering presence of Ranger, continued forward, knowing that the culmination of their careful journey was approaching, that the extraordinary lay just beyond the next step, ready to unfold in a way that was subtle, profound, and quietly miraculous. The partnership between man and dog a testament to perception, patience, and the extraordinary potential hidden within the ordinary world. The morning shifted imperceptibly as Ethan Carter and Ranger moved closer to the heart of the avenue, the sunlight now warmer and casting long golden streaks across the frost-speckled pavement, the soft shimmer of ice reflecting in every window and metallic surface, creating a patchwork of light that danced in rhythm with the subtle movements of the street. Ethan inhaling deeply, feeling the crisp winter air fill his lungs, the scent of pine mingling with the distant aroma of fresh bread from the bakery, the low hum of distant engines adding a vibrating undertone to the quiet symphony of the morning. Ranger walking in perfect step beside him, tail low and steady, muscles coiled yet fluid, amber eyes scanning the environment, ears pricked to catch the faintest shifts in sound, movement, or vibration, nudging Ethan gently when something shifted beyond his perception. Each touch and press along the leash, transmitting information in a language understood only by them. Ethan interpreting, light moving slowly across the pavement, altering the way shadows fell and how frost sparkled. Ranger pressing briefly against Ethan's side, signaling attention toward a faint, almost imperceptible change in the environment. Ethan adjusting his stance and listening, feeling the rhythm shift beneath his feet, each detail a piece of the unfolding pattern. The city itself seeming to hold its breath, waiting for the next motion. The faint vibration of distant movement merging with the natural cadence of the street and the soft whisper of the wind through the bare maples. Ethan and Ranger fully attuned. Each step, each shift, each pause part of a deliberate and silent dialogue. The anticipation building in a quiet, almost sacred rhythm. Every sound, reflection, and movement a prelude to the moment of revelation. The extraordinary threading quietly through the ordinary, and Ethan, trusting the guidance of Ranger and his own finely tuned senses, continued forward with careful, unwavering focus, ready to perceive and navigate the subtle miracle that awaited, the partnership between man and dog, patience and attention converging into a singular, profound awareness of the day unfolding before them. The street had grown warmer under the gentle incline of the mid-morning sun, the frost along the edges of the sidewalks glinting like scattered crystals as Ethan Carter and Ranger moved with a deliberate and steady rhythm, every step measured against the subtle vibrations beneath their boots, the faint hum of distant engines merging with the quiet murmur of life in the city, the scent of pine mingling with wood smoke from nearby planters dusted with snow, the aroma of freshly baked bread, wafting from the corner bakery adding a warm undertone to the crisp air. Ranger adjusting his stance at Ethan's side, muscles taut yet fluid, ears rotating to catch the faintest disturbances, amber eyes capturing every shadow, every reflection, every subtle movement, the soft crunch of snow underfoot a rhythmic percussion accompanying their progress. Ethan's gloved hands holding the leash with a light, responsive grip, feeling the flow of energy and tension through Ranger's movements. The two, moving in seamless unison as if guided by an unseen conductor, the buildings casting long, fractured shadows across the avenue, sunlight reflecting off windows and metal surfaces in shifting patterns, the wind stirring loose flakes of snow and carrying faint sounds of distant voices and footsteps, each element layering into a complex map of the environment that Ethan interpreted with practiced precision. Ranger pausing momentarily to lift his head, ears alert, nudging Ethan with a subtle press of his shoulder toward a slight change in vibration in the pavement. Ethan responding with immediate awareness, adjusting his stride, tilting his body to better interpret the cues, the city itself seeming to hold its breath as if aware of their approach. Every detail significant, every shift in light, shadow, or sound contributing to the anticipation building around them. The faint shimmer of frost on curbs and windowsills, the subtle creak of overhead signs, and the delicate sway of bare branches combining into a layered sensory tapestry. Ranger's tail low but steady, shifting slightly to communicate reassurance. Ethan reading the cues with a calm intensity that allowed him to anticipate changes before they fully manifested. The sunlight catching the icy edges of metal railings and windows, scattering light in fractal patterns. Across the street, each glint a note in the symphony of the morning, the distant hum of engines now rising with a steady rhythm that blended with the ambient sounds of city life. The partnership between veteran and dog completely seamless, a dialogue of intuition, attention, and trust, guiding them toward the subtle, almost imperceptible signals that hinted at the extraordinary. The frost sparkling under the sun like tiny diamonds as they approached the center of the avenue, each detail sharpened in Ethan's perception, every breath and step an act of deliberate awareness, the quiet anticipation coalescing into a palpable energy, a moment suspended on the edge of revelation, Ranger pressing briefly against Ethan's side, a tactile signal that the extraordinary was drawing near, the veteran responding with measured steps and steady breathing, attuned fully to the rhythm of the street and the dog, every sound, movement, and light reflection aligning into a prelude of understanding. The ordinary transforming subtly into something extraordinary through the interplay of attention, trust, and perception, and together they moved forward, fully immersed in the silent symphony of the morning, poised to witness the gentle unfolding of what had been quietly waiting just beyond their awareness. The air seemed to hum with quiet expectation as Ethan Carter and Ranger reached the far edge of the avenue, the sunlight now streaming in soft, golden beams that caught the frost along the curbs and the edges of parked cars, scattering reflections that flickered across the pavement like tiny diamonds. The cold winter air crisp and invigorating, carrying the faint scent of pine, wood smoke, and freshly baked bread from the corner bakery. Ethan inhaling deeply, letting the clarity sharpen every remaining sense. Ranger moving with fluid precision beside him, muscles coiled and responsive, tail low and steady, ears pricked to detect every subtle shift. Amber eyes tracking the light and shadow with extraordinary focus, the soft crunch of snow underfoot, resonating in harmony with the low hum of distant engines and muffled voices, each vibration a note in the symphony of the morning that only the veteran and his dog could perceive. Ethan's gloved hands lightly holding the leash, feeling the communication of muscle tension, subtle pressure, and rhythm from Ranger, interpreting the tactile signals with practiced precision, every detail of the street cataloged in his mind. The gentle sway of branches overhead, the faint glint of frost on windows, the soft creak of signs in the breeze, the shimmer of sun on metallic surfaces, each element contributing to a layered map of awareness. Ranger nudging Ethan gently to adjust his trajectory, drawing attention to a faint but discernible change in the vibration of the pavement, the city itself seeming to pause in this moment of suspended anticipation. The distant murmur of life forming a backdrop for the subtle interplay of light, sound, and movement, every nuance meaningful, every subtle shift. Informing the path forward, the frost sparkling like scattered diamonds, sunlight refracting off icy surfaces in a constant dance, Ranger pressing briefly against Ethan's leg, a tactile signal of reassurance and guidance. Ethan responding instinctively, stepping carefully, tilting his body to sense the micro-movements of the environment, the rhythm of their movement in perfect harmony with the city, the rising vibration of distant engines blending with natural cadence, the ordinary transformed into a landscape of heightened awareness, every shadow, reflection, and sound layered into a tapestry that hinted at extraordinary events just beyond perception. Ranger alert, coiled yet fluid, tail low, eyes bright, reading the subtle shifts. Ethan fully attuned, every step a deliberate act of observation, anticipation, and trust, the sun catching tiny fragments of frost, scattering them like light across the pavement, each reflection contributing to the unfolding sense of revelation. The quiet current of energy building steadily, the cityscape around them alive with signals and textures that guided their passage, the veteran and his dog moving as one, completely synchronized, interpreting, sensing, and preparing, every moment a prelude to the extraordinary, the hidden magic threaded through the ordinary world, waiting to be revealed in the silent, precise, and perceptive dance of man and dog, every detail heightened, every sensation amplified, leading them inevitably toward the subtle miracle that had been quietly shaping the morning, the bond between Ethan and Ranger, a conduit for awareness, intuition, and the extraordinary quietly emerging from the ordinary. The avenue unfolded fully around Ethan Carter and Ranger as the sunlight climbed higher, illuminating every frost-crusted surface and casting long, warm reflections across the pavement, the subtle warmth contrasting with the crisp winter air that carried the faint aroma of pine, wood smoke, and the distant scent of baking bread. Ethan inhaling slowly, letting the cold and clarity sharpen his awareness while Ranger moved seamlessly at his side, muscles coiled and fluid, tail low and steady, ears constantly rotating to catch the slightest changes in sound or vibration, amber eyes attentive to every shadow, reflection, and movement, nudging Ethan gently to draw attention to the subtle signals of the environment, each shift in the rhythm of the street interpreted instinctively, every footstep deliberate, the soft crunch of snow underfoot mixing with the distant hum of engines and the muted murmur of pedestrians, layering into a complex tapestry of sound, motion, and anticipation that only Ethan and Ranger could fully perceive, the buildings casting fractured patterns of light across the avenue, windows reflecting the sun in shimmering patches that shifted as they moved, branches swaying gently above, sending scattered flakes of frost dancing through the air, each element forming part of a living map of cues, vibrations, and impressions. Ethan's gloved hands steady on the leash, feeling the flow of energy through Ranger's body, the dog pressing occasionally with a precise nudging to communicate attention and intention. The rhythm of their movement aligned perfectly with the subtle currents of the city, each detail contributing to a sense of inevitability, the ordinary world layered with extraordinary meaning, the hum of engines now rising to a measured cadence in the distance, blending with the soft patter of snow and faint voices. Ranger's body coiled yet relaxed, eyes bright and attentive, signaling through micro-movements and pressure points. Ethan responding with measured precision, translating every signal into navigation and awareness. The frost sparkling like a constellation of tiny diamonds, sunlight catching them in fleeting, brilliant flashes, the anticipation in the air almost palpable, a quiet energy building as every element fell into place, the city itself seeming to hold its breath, the ordinary street transformed into a stage for observation, perception, and revelation, every shadow, reflection, vibration, and scent contributing to the unfolding sense of something hidden yet imminent. Ethan and Ranger moving as a single, harmonious unit, fully attuned to one another and the environment. Every breath, every subtle shift in weight and direction part of the continuous dialogue of awareness, the extraordinary threading quietly through the ordinary. waiting to be fully sensed, and in that delicate, measured, and attentive dance, the morning revealed its hidden magic, the culmination of patience, trust, and perception unfolding in a silent, profound miracle that lingered in the crisp air, felt in the rhythm of steps, the pressure of a paw, and the golden light that illuminated their path, the city around them alive with quiet revelation, and Ethan, guided by Ranger and his own finely tuned senses, moved forward into the moment where ordinary and extraordinary converged, the subtle, gentle miracle of observation, trust, and unwavering companionship fully realized as the morning reached its luminous zenith.